Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen, Susan?
Yes, perfect.
Great. Hi, I'm Susan Tenby, and I'm going to talk to you about the events piece of community management and ways to kind of bridge the online and offline so that you use events as a way to punctuate activity that's happening with your online community and to bring your community together between your events. So I'm Susan Tenby, as I mentioned, and I am a social media and community builder. I have been with TechSoup for, I'm embarrassed to say, 17 years. So quite a long time doing online community and offline community building the entire time. And you can reach out to me after this event or at any time at susan@caravanstudios.org. Caravan Studios is the division of TechSoup. And at SUZBOOP, that's Suze Boop on Twitter. And, my title with Caravan is Community and Partnerships Director, but really a lot of what I do has to do with events. And I also manage, so I do a lot of on the ground events, and I also manage all these online channels that you see right here, mostly primarily Twitter and Facebook, but these are just the places you can find us. So we have a Public Good App House Facebook group. We have Caravan Studios nonprofit Facebook group. We have a Caravan Studios and Safe Night app Twitter account. You can see the rest of what we have. This is just a sampling of the community online that we manage between events. And the kind of events that we run for Caravan, this is the main event series that I run for Caravan, which is the Apps for Change demo series. And it started a couple years ago. We have approximately 6 events a year, sometimes a little bit more. And these on average have about 150 RSVPs with about 30 people, 20 to 30 people on the wait list, which translates into about 80 attendees in the real room. They're all live streamed. And as you can see, these are events that showcase apps for social benefit. These are demo events where people from the tech sector and engaged community members and app developers who have built public benefit demo them to a group of people in the room that are half nonprofits and half technologists who care about social benefit and public good technology. And what you're seeing in the upper right is some online excitement from these events on Twitter using that hashtag Apps for Change demo. And the other series of events I run is I run a monthly event called OC Tribe, which stands for the Online Community Tribe. And that's an evening event. The other events I was talking about were morning events. And this is a monthly meetup that's been around since 2006. And it has about 50 RSVPs online, which translates to between 15 and 20 on the ground attendees. It's run by volunteers entirely. And it's really a networking event, whereas the other one, the previous event is an event to showcase social benefit apps and try to get people to use them more. This event is very much a networking event for people who do the kind of job that I do, which is online community and on the ground community management. And these events start at 7, and they're kind of evening networking events with a short presentation. The man you see presenting in that photo is from Adobe. And these are ways for us to showcase our sponsors, but also ways for junior and beginning community managers to talk about what they learn and to share best practices and share their expert tips with a friendly group of other community managers. And this group actually yielded $21,000 of sponsorship money last year. So even though it's a volunteer run group, it's been pretty helpful for us getting sponsors. And these are the online channels that exist for that community between events. So we have a YouTube, a Facebook group, a Twitter handle, a Twitter hashtag, which is OC Tribe, and the meetup group itself, as you can see, over 2,000 members. And although those events are very different, they are some there are some similarities which you can expect with most events in general. And so these kind of similarities, these things that these types and all events have in common are, for example, you might have noticed that in both events, even though the numbers were scaling very differently, 50% is a really good expectation for a free event. So if you have 100 people on your RSVP list, 50% is a good day. So it might be 40 people that show up, just so that you know. Free events, even though there might be free beer, do not always yield 100% attendance. And actually, in all my years of throwing events, and they've all been free, we've never had anything different than 50%, sometimes 40% attendance. So just to expect that. And also, the ways that you can kind of expect across events, the best attendance would be to send at least 3 reminders. Don't be afraid to over remind people, because if you think about your own behavior on the web, you're going to appreciate a reminder. We all get so many email that we really do appreciate getting over reminded. And you want to remind people across channels. So you want to send Twitter reminders and Facebook reminders and reminders within the Meetup or Eventbrite or whatever event tool you use, and some email, because you want to meet people where they're at, and some people are only on Twitter and some people are only on Facebook, for example. And you want to make a graphic for your presenters to help them share the meetup widely. So that might be, we call those assets, visual asset. And in that, you also want to craft some prefabricated tweets and some Facebook message and some email sharing messages. And don't fall into the trap of including too many, because then people just get option paralysis and they don't really know which one to choose. So it's best to just kind of include 2 tweets, a link to a tweet. They can just hit the retweet button. If they're feeling a little lazy, they don't want to do their own tweet. And the same goes for Facebook, maybe 1 Facebook post and a link with a Facebook post to share. And with that, you want to make sure that your Facebook message is set to public. So when people share it, they can share it widely with their networks without it having to have some kind of restriction on where it can be shared. And similarly, when you ask them to share, you want to make sure that in your tweets, you mention all the critical information in the tweet. Don't just include it in the graphic. I feel like that's a common stumbling place, where people include all the information in the graphic as if it's a poster. But what they don't realize is that when people are viewing Twitter through a listening dashboard or some sort of XML reader, those images often just look like an image link. So all the critical information is lost. So make sure you include the date and the time and the topic in your tweets. And also, finally, you want to create an atmosphere not only that's easy for your presenters to share, but you want to create a shareable environment. So you want to pick presenters that know how to share on social media. It's really critical, because otherwise you're very much working on your own. So it's much easier for you if you pick presenters who have a big audience and know how and what the best strategy is for sharing their own talks. And you want to make them, hold them accountable for it. So as I mentioned, you want to give them some pre-crafted messages to share, and coach them on speaking not only about their product. So it's not going to be a sales pitch, but it's actually, you want to coach them to speak to the audience that they're speaking to, but also remind them and get their agreement to share at least 3 times with their network. So what you see here below is one of my speakers from the OC Tribe event, Nicole Banks. I had her present not only from her own Twitter account, but also from the Twitter account of her company. And Albert Chan spoke at OC Tribe, and he is his own brand, and he has a group called Albert's List, which is a very popular, with tens of thousands of members, job sharing tech group. So I just got his commitment to share on his own account and to use our trackable links so I could see, and it's important to give them the right hashtags. So you can see that he used our own hashtag, but he appended some other additional hashtags to catch some other people who might be following, for example, the hashtag SF and the hashtag events or the hashtag social media. So that's an example of picking your presenters who really know how to share and holding them accountable so that they really help you with your work of filling the room. And one of the documents that Susan referred to earlier is a pre-event checklist. So this is for the people who are helping you put on the event. This is the equipment. So things, just so you aren't kind of stuck on the day of the event going, oh my goodness, I forgot my tripod. So you want to, it's just easy to have this. You won't forget anything if you have this list on hand. And like, for example, we note that we need 2 iPads, one for Facebook Live and one for the timer of the event. So just making sure that you fill out a checklist, you have it as a template, and you use it for every event. And it's a physical checklist that you can share around. And similarly, the run of day sheet. So you want to create an agenda that has the flow of the event so that you are working with a group of people who know exactly the timing of everything going on. You're not just kind of operating on your own. They know that by the time on this event, for example, for 1040 rolls around, the welcome announcements are going to be completed and the demos are going to start. So this is to share with not only the producers of the event, but all the presenters and anyone who's kind of behind the scenes. So that we also included that. And here I'm going to show you a little video because volunteers are a similarity across all events and they're critical to your event success. So I'm going to just share a little 1-minute video.
Hi, my name's Arielle. I came here a year ago, the San Francisco online community meetup. I moved here for school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. The community here was really warm and welcoming. I had a really good experience. I found out what community manager did. A year later, after finishing school, I kept in touch with Crystal. I'd seen her at a few other events, and being a community manager was top of mind. I ended up getting a job as a community manager at Affinity Live, a B2B company. And I'm totally loving it, and it's all thanks to this meetup. And that was really just paying it forward, because when I moved out here about 3 years ago, I didn't have connections, didn't have a network, and this was one of the first meetup groups I found. I tweeted a lot at it and volunteered with the group, and that ended up getting me noticed by the community manager, Nick, who brought me in as a consultant there. And then eventually full-time, and now 3 years later, I found myself a job at Google. So it's really great to see how this group really helps build people up and help build their careers up.
So that was a video from my volunteers at the OC Tribe online community meetup group. And as you can see, it ended up getting her Crystal a job at Google, starting out as a volunteer. So you really want to make sure that you help your volunteers grow skills that are portable for them and that are valuable and marketable so that they can find the volunteer role valuable and help share it out. So volunteers and recruit more volunteers and retain them. And you want to make sure that your volunteers really have autonomy and ownership of your community and of your events. And you want to keep in clear contact with them so that they're engaged. You want to have kind of regular volunteer meetings, like whether it's monthly, I do kind of quarterly, just to get their feedback, like what's working for them, what's not. And I send out every single meetup a volunteer list like this, which these are the needs that I have. These are the things that I might need, like I need somebody to buy name tags, something that you might not think about, but you just have to kind of put all the needs out there and let people sign up for the roles that they want. This is really critical. And I also, as Susan mentioned, included something like this for you. But just to remember all the pieces so that you're not stuck on the day of the event without any people to do cleanup, for example. And sponsorship. I just want to talk about sponsor love for a second. Don't be shy to mention that you're looking for sponsors. Sponsors want to tie themselves to events that are successful with happy volunteers. So at the beginning of your event and at the end of your event, looking for sponsorship, open for sponsorship opportunities, mention it on your meetup or Eventbrite page. create a sponsorship kit so that if somebody is interested, you can quickly just send them something like, hey, right away, I can actually send you this kit. So create it ahead of time, like a PDF kit with a video like that maybe, or something along the lines of a presentation for your sponsors. And you want to highlight your sponsors at the beginning of your event, and in slides when people are walking in the room, and in voice when you announce. So you can see me on the left here, giving my sponsors some sponsor love, and then I announce my sponsors as they come in a separate dedicated email through the tool, through like meetup.com or Eventbrite, or in a separate email, giving them that kind of benefit and amplification. And then again, thanking them after the event on social media. And finally, make sure that you create unique value for your sponsors, whether it's coming in and doing a focus group with the special membership, or providing swag, or asking your members for to fill out a survey, but provide them with unique value that they wouldn't get by just attending your event. And back channel, super important. So the hashtag that I showed you earlier, OC Tribe, during all my events, all of my events always have a dedicated hashtag, so people can follow along between events, and also during the event itself, using a tool like Tweetwall or Twitter Feed or Twitterfall. These are tools that help you show the back channel for the people watching remotely while they're watching on Facebook Live, and they can respond to questions and answers using the hashtag. But also, a lot of these people have these hashtags now put into their Hootsuite or whatever Twitter listening dashboard they use, so that they can be a part of the community between events. That's kind of what I was talking about, the pillars to hold up the community between the on-the-ground events. And remember to have purely social events like happy hours, so that you're understands that this is a networking, there's value in attending, and build in networking as well, for that matter, into your events, because that's why people come in real life. Otherwise they would just watch it online. But the reason that they would come on the ground is to talk to other people. So that's really important as well. And the video from the live event that I mentioned is really great for archiving. So you can do things like create bite-sized videos, like 1-minute videos to repurpose. They're great for SEO. You can edit together kind of a montage of people talking about your event itself, and use that in your sponsorship kit. You can get you can caption these videos, so that people can watch them. As you know, 80%, or you may not know, but 80% of video is not watched with sound. So you can caption these videos and make them into sponsorship videos, or videos about what you're doing, and curate playlists on Vimeo and YouTube to share around. And finally, you want to make sure you recap your events using all of these elements. So tools like Storyfy help you put in the videos, as well as the hashtags, as well as the compilation of the tweets and Facebook posts and advertisements from other people all around the web into one easy to share link. That is a story, essentially. And that not only is good for SEO, but it helps you kind of share your event between events and give a final boost of amplification to thank and reward your speakers. And with that, I am done with my part of the presentation and open for questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Susan. You shared a lot of really important content. And I want to address a couple of questions that we got in. One is the folks that don't attend your event per se, but they watch it in the recording. How do you both identify the metrics that you're using, and how do you collect that data and then try to make the event better, or try to reach out to those folks who maybe couldn't attend the event?
So often when people are attending the event virtually, they still have RSVP'd on the meetup site. So I always send a wrap-up survey. I use kind of like a Survey Gizmo type tool, either Survey Gizmo, there's Survey Monkey, there's JotForm, but I use an online survey tool and ask them. The important thing about surveying is that you ask very very limited amount of questions. Otherwise, people get survey fatigue. So I might ask 8 questions to get their feedback. And in terms of collecting the data, I just I capture how many people signed up versus how many people attended versus how many people online, if that's the kind of data you're asking about.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Another question we got, and I know you're actually really good at this because I've seen you do it. How do you get sponsors? If you were just starting out, and some of the folks on this webinar are brand new, they haven't had these type of events, or they don't have the amount of experience you've had. How do you get started with asking for sponsorships, and then with the recruitment, retention, and recognition part of it?
That's recruitment and recognition of volunteers or sponsors?
Sponsors.
Sponsors. Okay. So yeah, I mean, when I got started, I literally passed around a hat, like a literal hat, and said, our time is voluntary, but we do have to pay for the food that you're eating, and we'd welcome, and be grateful for anything that you can contribute if you want to toss in a buck. But as time goes on and you have regular events, at the beginning of every event, you tell people, this is a volunteer run event. We have to pay for food. We are open to sponsors. We'd love to talk to anyone who's interested in having, a bigger profile in this event. And we do make announcements out on social media that we have sponsorship opportunities. And then once we get a spot, we talk to people that come from larger companies and ask them if they're willing to host an event. And then usually with that hosting comes paying for the food and drink. So that's a nice, easy way to kind of it's like a sponsor starter kit. And then you can say, hey, we had our event at Twilio and they are a sponsor. And now you have some sponsor logos to thank people for. And then once people see that there's, it's the same concept of nobody wants to dance alone at a party. Once they see there are other people dancing, there are other sponsors on the docket, then they want to be a part of it. And then you can kind of reach out to different companies, and you look at your attendee list before every event and see who comes from larger organizations that might have a budget. And then you just reach out to them, and then eventually they come to you.
Great. Perfect.
And in terms of retaining, this is the part 2 of that question. In terms of retaining them, I would say, just make sure that you religiously thank them. You show their logo. You reach out to them, like have a regular check-in, even if they don't initiate it, and say, just wanted to give you a heads up of what's going on in the OC Tribe community lately. And here's some people that you might want to reach out to about your product. And let me know when you want to come and give, for example, a panel presentation at our event, that kind of thing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And the other question we did have, it's almost the same exact question, but about volunteers. So again, some of the folks coming in are just right at ground level. They're just getting started with doing this. How do they recruit volunteers for these particular tasks? And I know you have some great handouts, which I've included in the course, but what was your strategy when you first got started?
Be pushy, don't be shy. Just tell people, hey, I'm doing this on my own. I'm looking for volunteers. If you've enjoyed this, if you find it valuable, please, I ask, Nina, who's our intern at Caravan Studios, knows that she was voluntold to help me. You can kind of be pushy and say to people, if you want to attend, I need everyone's help. This is a group effort. And after a while, people will come up to you and say, this is great. How can I help you? And also, this is really important. In your RSVP registration form, always include an open field question that says, do you want to volunteer? Yes or no? And if they say yes, they have to include their email address, and then you reach back to them. Because a lot of people, they see the value in being a part of the smaller community. As Crystal mentioned in the video, it ended up eventually getting her a job at Google. So, there is value. You just want to make sure that you're transparent about the value you're providing.
Thank you. And actually, Nina is here with us today, so she was nodding her head as well. And I think in this dialogue that we're having about volunteers, you've demonstrated very, very clearly in your testimonial, you know, Crystal speaking about her experience as a volunteer, and Nina was nodding her head as you were saying, you know, voluntold, but folks that get involved, if they are treated properly, and like you said, you retain them by doing certain things for your volunteers, most specifically thanking them and being sincere and being authentic. And I think you also used the word transparent about what the ask is, what they will be doing, and giving them autonomy to complete the task. Do you have like volunteer roles that are specifically laid out for volunteers?
Yeah, I do. And I have a regular volunteer kind of volunteer managers kind of meeting. And so it's kind of for the core members. I have like a council, a leadership council, in a way of saying it, with my volunteers. And as I mentioned, I regularly meet with them. I take their ideas and I implement their ideas. Like, hey, what do you guys think? Like, should we do kind of a speed geeking session, or should we do a party? I take their ideas and I implement what they suggest so that they have ownership. And, you know, I also figure out who's good at what. Because some people, you know, there's what I always say about volunteers is there's a role for everyone. Even the painfully shy volunteer, don't put them as a greeter. Put them as somebody, you know, who helps you with something else. Like maybe they help with the tech stuff. But there is a role for everyone. You just kind of have to figure out and be intuitive. And I also try to have coffee or a drink with all of my volunteers. I always try to do an after hours check-in, like I did one yesterday with a former volunteer. I'm always trying to keep them engaged.
Thank you. Before we sign off, I'm giving folks another minute to chat in any other questions they might have. But I want to also tap into something you said. I've been taking notes in case there's anything else I can add to, you know, the course archive. But you said something that I think is really important as a volunteer manager and folks that work with interns or volunteers, or as everyone on this webinar starts to go out and begin these community events. You made it personal, and I've seen that firsthand, Susan, because I've been at some of your Apps for Change events, and you know each person individually, and you know them by name, and you do make it personal. And I think that that's something that folks that are going to do this do need to understand. They do need to invest some time in developing volunteers, but that it's such a worthwhile investment, because in the long run, as we can see from your testimonial, those are folks that are going to carry your vision of this and your message forward. So
yeah. It's really important, and giving them the tools to do it on their own, to scale it. Like Crystal moved to Colorado, and she actually was talking to me about starting her own OC tribe. So it's kind of, you want to give them the tools so that they can grow. You don't, it's hard to kind of let them go, because obviously you have your own selfish reasons for wanting to keep your best volunteers, but you have to give them a clear career path up the ladder so that they can, you know, as you mentioned, take their skills and make them portable so that they can grow in that role.
Thank you. Thank you. Susan, you have covered a tremendous amount of information, and you've also answered a lot of questions. I really want to thank you for your time and the amount of effort it took to put this together and to join us today. We are very grateful for your time and expertise. Also, all of the learners that are on this course or folks that watch this recording, we thank you for attending. And if you do have questions, you can reach out to email Susan. I had forwarded that out to you, and I will also put it in the course. So please do reach out to her with any other questions, or you can also reach out to me as the administrator of the TechSoup course platform. We thank you, and Susan, you're awesome. Thank you for your time today. And
thank you.
So,
it was really fun. Thank you very much.
Good. I'm glad you had fun, and I hope everyone on this had fun as well. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.